Welcome to episode 3. We're so excited about this one. I don't know. I feel like it's a box of surprises today, right?
It's a box of chocolates.
It's a box of chocolates.
You never know what you're going to get.
Yes, I'm here with my most amazing co-host, Amira. I love you more by the day. And today we are meeting Matt.
Dr. Matt.
Dr. Matt. Dr.
That's why patients call me instead of Dr. Reid. It's Dr. Matt.
They call you Dr. Matt.
They do. They do. And it's not pediatrics either.
Personalize it just a little bit,
I like it this way.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what allows them to connect with me a little bit.
Yeah, there's
Talking about connection.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. Matt, how did you meet Amira?
How did I meet Amira? I met Amira when I showed up at Pennsylvania Hospital, actually, as Charlie, our mutual boss, hired me up. And Amira basically made sure that I didn't kill anybody and that I knew my way around, and that she also made sure that I knew what I was talking about before she let me free to, dispense healthcare. But no, I mean, Amira was one of the first people that I really got close to. In fact, maybe the only one that I really stayed close to from that time I was there. It was about 5 years.
5 years of
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And I mean, talk about a crucible. You really get to know somebody when you're working in that kind of environment.
Mm-hmm.
It's high stress. You're tired all the time. Sometimes you're angry. Sometimes you're sad. Sometimes you're elated. And you really get to see the gamut of emotions. And, having someone like Amira there was just kind of I don't think I would have had anywhere near the experience I did, as positive or as, as knowledge absorbing as if Amira wasn't there.
I want Amira next to me in a zombie apocalypse. That's what I want.
We should be like a pocket Amira that we could carry around with us. And then when we had a question almost on anything, better than Google, we just pull out.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But wait, we're going to get to you in a second. But tell me about your first impression of Amira.
Oh, gosh, goodness.
Know-it-all. She's a know-it-all. She knows everything, and she's so knows that she knows everything. I was completely wrong. I mean, she actually turns out to be quite humble. But that was the first impression. Also, I was like, okay, if can we swear on this?
Sure.
Maybe not.
Yeah, you already have a couple
So
times.
shit hits the fan. I was like, okay, that's one of the ones that I will go to, or one of the ones I want in the room with me. When you're an ER doctor, that's kind of how you size each other up.
Yeah, explain to me what happens when two doctors meet. What is the sizing up process for us non-doctors?
That's a very good question. I'm not going to say it depends on gender, but the way men are, it's kind of okay, all right, I see you. You got the skills. All right. Maybe you can take care of patients. Maybe you might be a little more educated than me. Maybe I'm more, you sort of compare each other. It goes back to caveman type thinking.
I also think that the reference to sizing up in that regard, or at least the reference that you made, is also a little bit of the collegiality that you get in the ER. Because when you go into an ER, yes, you're assigned to a patient and a patient is assigned to an attending. But like he said, when the shit hits the fan and someone's dying, which happens all the time, it's not your patient. It is a person dying, and everybody and all resources and every attending who can offer help, has knowledge, is, in my opinion, obligated to help, liability or not, right? And when you're in an ER, that's how it works. So if Matt had a case, and that's what he was sort of referencing, and he felt, and at times we all feel, but in an ER, there's so many variables, so many unknowns. You're making decisions with so little information.
Without all the information.
And nothing is finite. And you have 15 puzzles and major cases going on at the same time with information coming at you at all different angles. And then when somebody is circling or starts to crash, who you want in the room with you matters, right? Who's the other brain who problem solving with you? Who's the other person seeing things that you may not be because you're running it? Who's the other person supporting you in that moment? I think that's the sizing up piece. It's not the comparison of who are you better than. It's who do you want as your teammate.
So can you guys share a story to illustrate this? Because this is Superconnector Stories.
Let's see.
I mean, it just happens all the time. I mean, you would have a respiratory arrest or a code, and you have a primary attending who's going to be taking care of the airway, and they're at the top. But you know yourself, and it might be a skill set that you do exceptionally well, and it might be a skill set that you do reasonably well. And you want someone else with you who, if it's a really hard airway or you're having a rough day, you know who you want based on, what that need is. And so you call that person who's got your back to be there. If your third attempt fails, you take yourself out and you say, I need you to step in, and knowing your boundaries.
Share that though? Was there a time where you guys
All the time.
Yeah.
I mean, back
just share what
I mean, just exactly that. We can't share personal.
I can't share personal
patients,
stuff. Yeah.
but that's an exact case that would have exactly happened.
It's just I always tell. So I'm fascinated by meeting you because I only know Amira post.
Her in the area.
Yeah, post break day. And so to imagine Amira as a physician and imagine Amira in I can't do it. And that's why I'm interested.
She doesn't know me in that.
I can tell you.
But because you mentioned me, your first impression of me as a know-it-all, I will tell this story.
I mean, when you actually do know it all, you're not arrogant. You're just good.
Well, I hope I don't. What I pride myself on, especially because I'm an ER doctor, is that I am confident in what I know, and I'm very, very quick to disclose what I don't.
Oh, sure.
So I have a very good acumen. I'm very accurate on what I do know. And when I don't, I'm very happy and eager to get help.
There's not a lot of room in that place for bravado.
Well, that's the whole point.
Sure.
So, I think my accuracy is good. It's just that I don't chime in if I don't know, or I chime in with I don't know, so...
She's never shy about chiming in when she does know if she sees something going south. That's safe.
Right?
Saved so many lives that way.
And the funny story with you, at least in the very, very beginning, and your impression of me at that point was very funny. So you had gotten an EKG, and there was like a mixed read on the EKG, and there were a bunch of docs and nurses around, and you kind of bypassed a bunch of people, and you came over to me, and you handed it to me, and you said, hey, Dr. Bass, what do you think's going on with this? And almost like you were testing me,
I think I was just embarrassed. I wasn't sure, and I wanted to. I wanted to.
So I'm saying there were people around, and I think there was a little.
Let her tell the story, Matt,
about the gender issues, and I think there was a little ego, movement.
Always.
And it's like hey, Dr. Bass, what do you think of this? And I'm like, well, I mean, and then you looked at me, you're like, yeah, and you took it and you walked away, and I kept talking, and you turned around and said, and you put your hand up, and you said, I don't need an Amira explanation.
Right. Like I don't need the book memorized.
Extended version.
Exactly. Right.
You needed the abridged version because you had the patient to go take care of.
Well, I was like, never too busy, but sort of.
But our relationship was absolutely, evolved and shifted.
Gorgeous. It was wonderful.
From the very, very beginning to where we ended up. But
first impression of Matt.
I'm like, so, I don't even know if I still can, go back to that moment because I have such a strong impression of who Matt is now, Like that first impression, I'm not sure.
Overwhelmed by all the time in between.
I'm not sure I can firmly, you were very, personable and charismatic and likable in the department. I think you were friendly, and I was a bit of a chip on my shoulder because I was those things too, but I was a woman and I was received differently. So I think some of those things were, just the way that the professional field of emergency medicine practiced as a man versus practiced as a woman.
That's definitely worth getting into at some
point.
And
the effort that I put in, and what I thought I deserved in return, and, some of that social clout that you got. So there was a little maybe jealousy or a little bit of a, who does this guy kind of think he is, at first. That evolved too,
So it wasn't love at first sight.
No, it was not. I think we equally admitted that we
respect.
Kind of had respect.
At least from my end, I knew right away. She knew what she was.
Like I said, mine came from more of my insecurities. Like I said, being the woman in the department, from
that's why I asked
some of the elements. But yeah, definitely not at first. I think we had mixed wires on some of those things based on, I think, the bravado of the department, and how we have to present ourselves. And to be honest, it is a department that you're filled with, I don't know if fear might not be the right word, but you kind of have to fake it till you make it, even yourself. Even if you have all the knowledge in the world, you have to walk in there in every moment with the utmost of confidence, even if
fear management.
It's fear management. That's why I was like, it's not fear, but it's always based in that element. And no one doctor ever is exceptional at everything.
Right.
So you're battling your own truths in every moment, yet you have to pretend almost like you got it all down all the time.
Well, you have to let the staff and the people that
they all
helping
have to feel comfortable.
They have to feel confident that you know what you're doing. It is to you. I mean, if I start falling apart, and I remember a very, very specific case where, it's sort of like poker players. They'll remember their big beats, like where they lost huge, but they're great victories. They don't
remember, the fumbles.
Right, exactly. And I remember a case where I had the most difficulty, and it was maybe the one time I was truly like internally petrified, and I had to okay, I can't lose it. It was like multiple intubation attempts. She was overloaded with fluid, septic situation, but also an allergy. It was very confusing. And I remember, I could feel my heart rate going up. I could feel like I was losing it. And I just had to sort of amidst all of everybody's around me and everybody's moving the patients.
Absolutely.
And you have to take a breath and pull it together. And that was a challenge.
Amazing compartmentalizing.
Because somebody's life was on the line. I was like,
you're having a physiologic response.
Yeah, you're fighting that too. Oh yeah, sure.
I think this is just like a very not all heroes wear capes kind of thing when I hear about the ER. So Amira knows, and I don't know if you know that, oftentimes I end up working with physicians, and I am trying to, and physicians seek me out. And physicians tend to have more money to be able to afford a matchmaker, but also it's correlated with a lot of loneliness and a lot of social disadvantages,
and compartmentalizing away your social world. And so we're very developed in our professional worlds, and we have personas there, but we really don't always know our social personas as well.
Yeah,
they're underdeveloped or compartmentalized in some cases.
So I guess I want to ask you guys, and I ask you a lot, help me help physicians, help me understand what society is doing to physicians and why they're lonely, and how can we help them. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. That definitely makes sense. I mean, when you're considering a profession that has a fairly high rate of self-harm, and a fairly high rate of
straight up suicide.
Yeah. And addiction and all and
substance
abuse and even, depression, nervous breakdowns, these things too. Yeah. And again, it comes hand in hand with the stress that comes along with having such responsibility. I mean, I imagine.
And the dysregulation that the job structure has on the body, let's be honest.
Are we speaking only about the ER?
Well, as far as dysregulation of the
ER, but in general, but even if you think of a surgeon and their hours, or we think about primary care and the hours they keep, it's all dysregulatory, right? It's just, there's not space for the rest of what life requires, whether or not it's during sleep hours or not. Causes dysregulation. Yeah. So until our medical professional world understands and can meet your basic Maslow hierarchies of needs and cares that you have a meal during a 12-hour day.
So we end up taking care of ourselves as best we can, but taking care of each other is a glorious part of it too.
The ER part too, though, in other professional medical fields, you can take that break because you can have a moment to prioritize yourself. The ER is a unique place because you always have someone else in a circumstance that's more important than your lunch.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to say, let me take that moment. And what happens with dysregulation is it's not the first time you skip lunch. It's not the second time, but it's the 6th, the 7th, the 27th, the 47th time. It's those bad habits that accumulate over time. And eventually we end up with a higher propensity of mental illness, a higher propensity of cancer, a higher propensity of autoimmune illness.
Sure.
And that's just factually true.
Yeah. Being at a heightened sense of
stress and time response.
It wears down the body over
nutrients,
days, weeks, months.
Poor hydration.
Yeah.
I guess I'm trying to understand as a superconnector and a matchmaker how to help people who seem to me, it just seems to me that these are the people, looking at them and who they were as children, these are the people who, they could be the child of immigrants, or they could, I don't know, but they're people who probably were adopted. The smart kids in class. They were the smart,
most
dedicated
of those
in class.
And now this is what start at self-care. is what I'm trying to say, even before partnership, because they have spent the majority of their lives serving other people in one way or another, even through school. Most people choose to be a doctor at such a young age. It's a conveyor belt world, and you get on that belt at such a young age and you make such a huge contribution to it that even if it might not feel right or you get another calling somewhere, you don't get off because that investment is just too large. That's why people end up with these breaks later or unable to, the incongruence of their life to what they ended up on, but they made those choices so long ago, right?
Yeah.
So the self-care piece, I think some of it is, what did you miss out on along the way? What parts didn't develop when you were hyper-focused on this career, right? Some of the self-care pieces, what needs don't get met at work? You know, in our previous episode, you mentioned in your field, you don't get thanked. Guess how many of us get thanked?
Yeah.
And we're out there, you know, saving lives, and we not only not get thanked, we get sued. You know, it's a really tough world. So I think understanding that personal development piece is not always there, especially in someone who is professionally packaged, is a disconnect, you know?
And I can build on that and add to that too. You know, how the patient is or the patient situation, like whatever it may be, it's probably their worst day of their life if they're in an ER or one of them.
Not ours in that
It's
moment.
not ours usually. No, it's just Tuesday for us. You know,
I say
sometimes
exactly to you.
Yeah.
It is
so how they're suffering is more important than how we feel. And I know, to speak directly to what you were talking about, sometimes, like, what I would do is put so much of myself into taking care of my patients. I do a different kind of work now, but I'm still, serving patients. And
in the best way.
Yeah, well,
I'm going to ask you about that in a minute.
Well, yeah, it's a whole other thing, yeah. But sometimes I would maybe intentionally use what I have to do for these people as a way to not pay attention to the problems that are in my life, as a way to avoid them. I'm going to take care of this person, and that's where my energy is going to go, because if I turn inward and try to take care of the problems in my life, those problems may be the ones that wreck me. I can handle this person's problem, maybe infinitely more complex medically, but maybe I do that so that I don't have to really do the hard work that I need to do on improving myself or the self-care that might make me healthier or better. So I imagine there's probably more than just me, as far as doctors go and people in general,
feel
that way or that use that way.
Yeah, and this also goes back to that compartmentalization piece. We're really good at detaching our own emotional state, and we have to be able to withstand the trauma of it all. Seeing a child die or hearing the wails of a mother's scream when that, family member passes, you have to be able to detach from it. And part of that detaching does mean you detach from your own sense of being, right? Your own bodily needs, your own emotional needs. Yeah. It's part of the survival process too. So unless you're doing the work and touching in at times and you're guided in that process, you are slowly deadening yourself.
Yeah.
If it's too personal, are you okay
Those things are not too personal.
Matt talking about what it was like to shift from being like your colleague to what happened to you? Like, how was
before that, I can share that Matt transferred out of my professional world into my personal world through a connection story too, just with a close family relative who needed emergent, inpatient, very difficult to find and very expensive care. And Matt knew a medical director in the best of best places and was able to coordinate and hold beds longer and coordinate more and pull a lot of strings to make sure that we got the absolute best services and best care. And things really worked out exceptionally well for us because he went above and beyond and well outside of the professional, realm.
You were being a connector.
Yeah.
What you do is exceptionally important, especially in this day and age. But those connections, those relationships, that's really what saves people.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was like, when you asked me about my first impression, I'm like, I don't really have one. That's my impression. Like, I was like, he just goes above and beyond. Yeah. He's somebody who, there's just, he'll show up, he's just in your corner.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's mutual. I know that if I call Amira and I really have a problem, she'll do absolutely everything that she can do to help me solve that problem or just be a support if that's all I need. And she always seems to know exactly what's needed. I don't have to say it. And I imagine this is probably true with everyone in her life, that she can kind of just read these things like 1,000-yard stare from like a mile away and just tell what people need. That's what makes you such a good doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. To go back to my question about
Yeah, you can ask him. Yeah. Go ahead and tell
Like, what if-
how my
like,
transition
yeah.
was when I left the
Oh,
when I
yeah.
left the farm.
That was like, well, I mean, even prior to that, I remember Amira like seeing patients with an IV pole, walking around with an IV pole connected to her arm while
I
she's
always had
sick,
this illness, and I worked
not willing
nonstop.
to go home or leave or take off or,
So they saw it coming,
Yeah, yeah. And again, this is
Gauntlet was going to drop.
right. I mean, administratively, I would say something. Maybe this is not about us particularly, but they talk a lot about patient-centered care, and I definitely appreciate that. But I saw Amira, maybe not get the support that she probably should have from the people above us sometimes, and it was tough because she powered through, and that recognition, because they needed you for a lot of things. She developed a whole new electronic medical record thing. And I mean, she was doing things well beyond the purview of just emergency medicine, and doing it while she was sick, doing it while she was suffering, while she had children, while she was dealing with family illnesses. I mean, it's unbelievably remarkable.
And they liked you better. No, just
but I mean, there was, I don't know about that, but
when I was like,
certainly,
on my
yeah,
shoulder.
that's your shoulder.
I was like, all the nurses want to go for a drink with you. Okay.
Oh, I don't know. I had plenty complained about
No, I'm
they
just
like the way I was like, ordering things around. But
Fun.
yeah, we always had fun. That's for sure, and that's actually part of keeping things, keeping things light as
yeah.
well.
Okay, but stay on track.
Yeah.
Where are you going with your thoughts? So
Me
right.
leaving.
with
Yeah.
her
Well, so I was saying, administratively speaking, I would have loved to have seen them like take care of the people who are taking care of the people.
Yeah.
If you really want the patients to receive the best care, you don't have to, ply them with all kinds of goodies or specials or anything. You take care of the techs and the nurses. You make sure they feel respected. You make sure they feel needed and wanted.
Yeah.
The doctors too. And then good care will just arrive.
Yeah.
You don't even have to manufacture it. It'll just come. If you go to work happy and you go to work looking forward to it, and you know that the people who are employing you the administratively speaking appreciate you, that good care will just emanate.
And
So were you
have
not-
to pay the premium,
Right. That's well said.
People will come for less money to a happier work environment.
Exactly right.
So if
That's
you saw Amira this whole time, like, was it almost like not a shock to you because you were already
No.
concerned?
It was
Everybody knew.
it was but it was still a shock. I remember when I first heard that you ended up.
I feel like it was a shock because I was already like, people were seeing me in and out of sepsis, hospitalizations. I'd come back the next day. I would take my pole around. I'd be vomiting behind the door. I'd be running codes and throwing up. And I did it, thankfully. I'm now several years out. I can say without error, without problem, without lawsuits. And because I did do that, I think there was a false conception that Amira's fine and just can keep going like this, and there's never going to be a moment that she breaks.
There was a juggernaut, like
like
feeling
this is just like she's
unstoppable.
Right.
Which
that
this
she
didn't
just
really
keeps
stop you,
taking it.
actually. It didn't really.
Me from practicing ER medicine, but that's more for structural reasons.
Right. I mean, I fully
Lots
believe
of structural.
to this day that you could go in there and you could still work magic.
How would I get up to the head of the
It would be a little harder. It would be a little more difficult. But my point is, this was always there. And I just, I don't know. It was a blow. It was a real blow to me seeing you like not be able to do this. 'Cause it's like seeing Picasso not be able to paint, that kind of thing. I mean, maybe I'm being a bit hyperbolic, but not really. That's kind of what it was. Not to mention,
Kinda how I
a
felt.
massive loss to the
Yeah.
to the unit and to the team and things like that. I mean, it was particularly for me, it was very, very difficult to see my friend like that. And then, our friendship actually grew even greater.
much
from
more
that.
afterwards. I was going to say, just having the way you showed up for my, family situation, but
Of course.
our real relationship, personal relationship, and my appreciation for you well beyond that of a physician came in my, actually in my isolation and in my paralyzation and in my separation. And in the years of COVID, where we would go to an outside cafe in the middle of winter because I was highly immunosuppressed, COVID was still around, and sit for 8 hours and discuss philosophy and politics and
sociology.
We would have, dissent and
an argument
and arguments and, like debate and heavy debate.
You guys are a very weird match. I don't know the name. I don't know the name for what you are, but there's something like.
Well, if anyone can come up with it, you will come up with it.
Like oil and water. Or like, we're a little like vinegar and oil. They're great together, and we still have our separations. I'm a little sour. I'll give you that.
It's just you guys like hate to love each other and like love to hate each other. It's just
fair, but
weird.
we push each other. That's actually what it is.
Well, I say iron sharpens iron. Is what I've always said in the jiu-jitsu world where we train. That's what we say. Like, you want somebody who's a little better than you. You want somebody who's a little faster than you, a little stronger than you, because that's going to make you strive.
Yeah.
It's going to push you to be better. But
there's something there. There's something there about connection. Like, sometimes people pick these like friends that make them.
He's not easy. Yeah,
I know, and I feel like this is what you and I have in common. Like, sometimes we pick these people.
You're not an easy friendship, but we are because you give me emotionally what I need.
Yeah,
but intellectually and in other ways, you push me and challenge me and you battle me
so that you become better.
Well, to challenge the way that I think, and I appreciate it from him, and I've learned to trust it from him.
Yeah.
Some people's other alternative opinions I'm not interested in.
Yeah.
But, and to be honest, even of Matt's, because he and I don't see eye to eye on a number of things, but I still love to understand and appreciate and have a scaffold to understand an opposing argument. I have a real healthy understanding for debate and growth of thought processes. My thought process is never going to grow if I don't understand the opposing argument.
Yeah.
And the one very thing I will say is the opposing argument will be well understood and researched and thought out and articulated by Matt, whether or not you agree with it.
Yeah.
So it's a place that I can go to understand it,
I have to say that like people want to know like the magic of matchmaking and connection. And I think that a lot of the magic comes from opposing energies, from someone who's going to help ignite you and who's going to help you evolve. Like, I don't make matches because two people like pickleball. No diss to pickleball. It's just that. And if you
it's an energy thing.
It's an energy thing, and you think about like what's going to be beneficial for a child, or you know what I mean. It's going to be probably one person who's really grounded and one person who likes to ignite shit and light things on fire. You can imagine which one I am in my relationship. I just met my husband, and this is how things work. The purpose of being in relationship is to evolve. What is love?
Yeah, what is love? Wow,
What is love, Matt?
What is love? That's a tough question, age-old question. I mean, connecting people is people being connected, because we're in a world where people seem as disconnected as they've ever been, right? I mean, we have the internet. We have the ability to push a button and we get the answer to every question that we've ever had.
Or talk to AI. AI will just talk to me and just be there for me if I call my AI. You know what I mean? Like, why do I need to deal with another human being?
Probably knows us better than we know ourselves. But the thing that you get from another person is that that energy. I don't think I could get that. I mean, as much as I enjoy ChatGPT and it's brilliant and it talks to me like a person, and I'm sure it's going to evolve, there's something about human connection. There's something about looking into the eyes of another person when they're scared or when they're happy or when they're
This
angry.
is where you should segue into what your work is currently, because I think it's also where I learned largely, parts of the world I needed to understand, but just the depths of how you see connection, because it was really useful for me to understand, especially in the substance abuse world, that it's not abstinence, right? People really hyper-focus on not using the substance. It's not that. And this was your words, this is you, but that it's connection. Connection fights substance abuse. That's what fights loneliness, and it's the actual word you used was connection. And I think, it's the actual word. And he said it's not abstinence of substance, it's connection. And connections, then you said specifically to community. And that's just something that I think segues well into kind of the work you do now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I wish I could take full credit for that. There was a TED talk.
Well, it's at least
But
what you shared with me.
no,
It's where I got the
remember that day,
information.
actually.
Yeah, I remember the table.
Yeah, they say we had Hawthorne's, yeah, which is no longer there, sadly. But it was, I think it was Johann Hari, if I'm pronouncing it right. It was a TED talk from, I can't remember, the mid 2000s, and he was talking about. It's a brilliant TED talk, and if there's a way to sort of attach it to this, so like you should do that. He gives this brilliant emotional talk, and he goes on about the addicts in his life that he loves very, very much. And this is going to be hard for me to get through, actually. And he talks about how we treat the addicts in our lives and in the world, like how the world treats them. Oftentimes
How they're received,
how they're perceived, how they're viewed, how they're judged, and the concept of connection, the bridge between them and another person, might be the one thing that's keeping them from self-harm, suicide, relapse, continued use. And to threaten that bond or threaten that connection with, if you don't do this or that, I'm going to cut you off. It's such an impossible situation. But this is where he sort of brought up the sense that, it's not about not using a substance. It's about having better connections with more people. Mm-hmm. And he talked about something like Rat Park, which was this great experiment that was done. Give rat two sets of these mice in these cages, and one, it was just a mouse by himself, and water, and then water laced with drug. In this case, it was cocaine, and left by themselves, isolated, with nothing to do. The mice with the mat would just drink the cocaine laced water and die. And as opposed to the other experimental set where it was, they called it Rat Park, and it was a beautiful cage with a bunch of different mice and balls and things that they could play with and tunnels they could run through. Same to water, same to availability of the water, the cocaine laced in the water. And he's like, they hardly would ever touch the water laced with cocaine because they had important things in their life. And he goes on to talk about being present. You need a purpose. You need a reason to be present in people's lives to keep those connections strong.
And, that's one of the reasons, though, that the, group therapy structure works so well, as opposed to some of the other modalities.
Group learning.
And, group learning, group
dating.
Well,
People have to do group
so
dates.
there's also group accountability, and that's kind of what you're talking about with group connection and with community connection, and that's that piece, especially in the world where you service and work. Yeah.
Can I make 2 points or ask?
Sure.
Well, first of all, is my understanding is that we should be using the language of like users as opposed to addicts.
Yeah, they change these things all the time. I guess I use the words my patients use. To describe themselves.
Yeah. Okay.
So they would most people within, and it's just as a reflection as a physician using the terms that people use to self-describe.
Because people use it in a derogatory way.
Right. Now, if you're the person on the side of them as an ally, you typically will use the word that community uses.
Yeah.
And the community would call themselves addicts, typically. Not everybody, but you can ask. And that's just commonly used.
The evolution of words.
Yeah.
The patients that I take care of, the ones who've been dealing with this for, decades, if they're lucky to live that long.
Calm, yeah.
That's, but I'm sure
other people can refer
words,
to different words. It's the same thing.
Words are powerful. Words have meaning.
Yeah.
They really,
I'm
they
really
very
a
much
stickler about like anytime someone says prostitute, I say sex worker, things like that.
Well, there's a big stigma too, because the people within the sex working industry don't want to be called prostitutes. That's the issue. It's the same thing people ask me, what do I want to be called as far as disabled or differently abled?
Do you want to be called?
I've been asked that.
What do you want to
I say I'm disabled. I have lack of ability.
Amira.
It's like, well, no, that is actually the truthful reflection. I'm fine with that. And so it's usually
Dr. Bass to you.
Dr. Bass.
Yeah, right.
As she was when I first met her.
My favorite title is mom. But the truth is that it is, though, actually. Yeah. 100%. The truth is, though, that, it's the best just to ask that population how they want to be referred to. But I would say, from your population and from my experience with that population, they refer often to themselves that way.
I mean,
And I guess
But it's always a good question to ask.
The second thing is just like how important it is to apply harm reduction.
Oh.
And I think that connects to your point about connection, because harm reduction is all about looking at where someone is at and helping them go from there instead of like...
It's not all or nothing.
It's not all or nothing. And
same thing with substance abuse. People constantly aim for abstinence, and the hyper focus is on the substance, and that's both the wrong focus and the wrong approach, right? Less is still better, right? And having an alternative that gives you less, having a different connection that draws you to something more positive, still impacts you in such a healthy way to move you towards that other goal.
Like Suboxone, I don't know.
Yeah, Suboxone is great.
One option.
It one of many evolving options. There's a lot more now.
Still therapy-based and cognitive-based therapies.
I mean, methadone is still probably the most broadly used, but certainly there's a lot of new options out there. There's injections. Vivitrol is a wonderful option. This is a once-a-month injection, and it can help to suppress cravings as well as...
Helps with stigma and compliance issues because people don't want to come every day or have to stand outside in a line.
Yeah.
Is it okay if we switch gears?
Yeah.
I want to be mindful of the time. So I want to share that recently I was with a friend, and she was like, "I don't get it. You like all your friends to meet. It doesn't make sense to me. I keep all of my friends separate." She was like, "You're a super connector. I am a super separator." And I realized that, Amira, I love you so much.
A super separator on purpose. Matt will tell you that I have a lot of friends that he knows that we have together because we work together.
Sure.
You guys all came into my life when I was isolated.
Okay, but
I'm isolated. Not that I isolate you. It's just that I'm isolated.
Well, I just want to share how I met Matt. Okay, so Amira, my
years and years later on my 7th break day.
Amira, my dear friend, who I've known
years,
for
5 years,
five amazing years, and I love you.
And we talk
so
every
much.
day.
And we talk. I've never met one of her
jealous.
friends.
I'm jealous.
Not one of her friends. I only knew her.
But
she met my friends
at the birthday party.
Whatever. Okay. The
And
point
my
is,
parents and my sisters.
the point is that you were being a super separator with me. Okay.
It's perfect for each other.
And Amira, I would just like for you to just share about the celebration of your break day and the first time that you brought us together.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how I met. Is how I met Matt. So
my break day is the day that I became paralyzed. It happened over 24 hours. And the day kind of has double meaning. It started as the day essentially my spine broke. At least that's the way my kids understand it, though my bones did not break. It's different than that. And it really, to me, meant the day that I got a break. I lived with this autoimmune disease that, was taking everything from me slowly and quickly. And I was struggling with my boundaries and helping everybody else through their worst moments and couldn't find my way. And finally, someone gave me a chair and said, "Sit down." So it's like, here, take a break. And that was wonderful. So I had my break day. And the last 7 years have been exceptionally hard. There's no other way to put it. And a complete transition in every way. I lost, my bodily autonomy, my career, my ability to have kids beyond the 2 that I had. I'm separated from my husband. You can name thousands of different ripples that have had an effect from this trauma. But there's a strong network of friends and family that have been there through, 15 or so hospitalizations in 7 years. Because for me, it's not a finite injury that I recovered from. It's a relapsing autoimmune disease that fluctuates. And I get hospitalized very frequently, often due to even the complications from my treatments. And my kids see these fluctuations, and we live a very complex and different life. And they know that, and they understand that. And, we went through additional struggles, with my one son being diagnosed as neurodivergent and level 2. And, my friend network, they're just so wonderful because my life and my world is so tailored to the disability world and to the way things have to be done in my world. And the reality is the rest of the world isn't tailored to me at all. So the type of person that I collect essentially, are just these really exceptional humans. And I am so fortunate over the years, long even before this, to have made really strong, great connections and friendships as far back as age 5. So this table was about I don't remember how many, like 9 or so, 12 or so.
You had a lot.
Yeah,
A lot of
and then
good
coming up.
people.
So like 12 or so.
It was a full spread. There wasn't an empty chair.
Chairs, like maybe 11 or 12 people, ranging from my best friend from 5th grade through my middle school best friend, my high school best friend, my first love connection, all the way up to Matt, well, my newest friend, mom friends from my mom network at McCall, and you, of course, and friends that literally slept on the floor during my 58-day first hospitalization. Just been there through all the hardest moments. I mean, literally have changed a diaper for me.
You prepped me to meet everybody. You made a bulleted list for me of where they were, but you didn't do it about him. You didn't make a bullet about who Matt was. I don't think you did. I remember all of the. So I just had to. I just wanted to share.
An enigma.
No, right? You must.
And I met you,
Matt.
I met you, Matt, and I was like, are people surprised that you're their doctor? And also,
You don't scream doctor.
I don't scream doctor.
You know what? That's common these
too.
days. That's
I can
like
address
not a lot to.
Fine, but
He does when he's at work in scrubs,
but I guess the thing is that I had to learn how to be a friend to you that didn't have expectations, that you're not ghosting me. Like, you could be hospitalized. Like, I don't know.
Oh yeah, or vomiting for 18 hours or 4 days, and
yeah,
And
so I had
stealthily,
to
not calling anybody, just managing herself and kids.
some of it's extended. It's months of just put my head down and just pace myself.
So I'm just saying, I had to learn how to be a friend with you.
We
and you taught me.
communicated well, yeah.
But I did realize that the person who did understand you extremely well in everything you've been going through and knows if you are in the hospital is you. And so I was grateful to finally have met you.
Matt comes and visits me when I'm hospitalized. He'll come and bring me something to read or something good to drink, just to have.
It's nice. What do you make her read, Matt?
Philosophy, typically.
I think
you put her to work. I see.
Bring you the meditations.
Yeah, you bought that. You brought me many.
You're Mr. Marcus Aurelius.
That's the one
I said it's going to come up. I said we won't make it through this session without Marcus.
Yeah, you probably won't.
Give us a nugget, please.
Some tips for Marcus. Well, I mean, I think that the most important thing that he relates is, there's so many important things, but the one that I take is that it's going to get a little esoteric, but we're all destined for the same end, right? Everybody, everything, every living thing has an end. And Marcus Aurelius looked at that 2,000 years ago as part of nature. That's just the natural way. And he says that there's nothing to be feared in nature. And he doesn't mean like you don't fear a hurricane or something like that, but what is naturally going, like what hands are meant to do or what feet are meant to do, work together and bring you on this journey towards that end. And if you end after 2 weeks, or if you end after 30 years or 100 years, we all share that, and it's not to be feared. I think that that's maybe one of the most important lessons I've taken from it, because, no matter what anybody says, we all fear that in some way, shape, or form to one degree or another. And as I get older, and there's more years behind me than ahead of me potentially, that sort of looms. And it's nice to have this kind of anchor for which to go back to. He calls it like a citadel that you can return to in your mind, where you can refresh yourself with these ideas that with just a few moments will bring you to peace. And then you can go back to doing what you do, go back to facing the world, and give yourself that break numerous times every day. I think Amira probably knew all of this without ever having to read a page of it. She just lived it. But it's sort of a book that I find to be very, very helpful, and it's one that I give out a lot to my patients.
So don't feel special.
No. It's only
that's the opposite. He gives it out to his patients. They'll tell you those relationships are ones that he invests a lot in.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. You are clearly a special guy. I mean, you have to be in the Amira's world. So I think we just want to end with some tips on connection. And I think one that's coming up for me as I'm listening to both of you guys talk is fear management, and how fear management is so important to connection. If someone in your life is an addict, and what they need is connection, like, you have to look at all of your fears,
Yeah, they will
so deeply, and they will come at you. Do you have a piece of connection advice?
I mean, I just think, connection is biochemistry. That's just a fact. And it is. Our limbic systems, our amygdalas, they are powerful and they're set early. And it controls fear and aggression and emotion and impulse control. And, it's all connected to the next phase, which are your neurotransmitters. And, what emotion is then connected to the feeling that comes from the neurotransmitter. You can totally essentially program yourself incorrectly. You can make yourself believe that someone screaming at you is love, because of those mismatches. And so I think it's important to take a look at how you define it and where you learned it, and really the basic structure of what love kind of means to you. And, I think the fear behind all of it is really innate to people because it comes from a part of your brain that's built really early.
Yeah.
And I think you can't rework it unless you're willing to slow down and look at the patterns and see what makes you afraid. Talk to people that question you, put yourself in uncomfortable situations. That's the only way you'll learn to regulate through them, right? Because if you're always working from your impulse center, you will never affect change.
Yeah. I tell my
I didn't
patients,
expect that.
yeah,
I didn't expect what you just did. Whatever you just did there.
Did it make sense?
No, I mean,
an emotional roller coaster of chemicals inside. You're absolutely right.
But it is, though.
It is. It truly is.
Like,
You said that. You're right.
No, but you have to understand it that way because it means it's actually something that's changeable, right?
Well, yeah.
It's actually something that's scaffold.
Yeah.
It's biochemical. It's actually tangible. So you can change your fear response.
Yeah.
It's hard, but you can. Habits, neurotransmitters, they're all connected, right? Behaviors, and you have power in that, right? Understanding that there's actual chemistry to it means that you can change it.
this is why I'm doing a podcast with her, because she makes my head spin, and I need to listen 5 times to I can't process everything now.
You have
We're
a
gonna-
choice.
We're gonna wrap up.
You have a choice. If something,
So be mindful of time.
Sure.
You have your turn, and then Amira, you get your 1 minute.
I got it.
Okay.
I wouldn't even take nearly that long.
Yeah.
But I think, when you're faced with something, when you have an emotional response to something, everyone, no matter what happens to you, you're going to have that response, and you can't control it. You can't predict it. You certainly cannot stop it. It'll happen. It'll come out of the ether. It'll come out of the ether, and it comes out of the millions of choices and experiences you've had leading up to that point. But what you do once it happens, everything after that is up to you. If I am afraid of something, I could run away or I could fight it. But once I have that emotional response, I also have another response I can draw from. I can use some logic and some reason. I can slow down, calm things down, just like you said, and make a different choice. It's realizing that you do have that power. The fear that overruns you. When I was in the emergency department and that patient was dying, I wanted to run out of the room. I wanted to leave. I wanted to get on the elevator and just go to the roof. But I don't know. All the experience, the people around me, the support I had, luckily, I was able to calm myself and bring myself back. That can be learned. And it has to be practiced like any skill.
And it's a practice skill. But, you're exactly talking about, no, but listen, this is massively important.
Yeah.
Because you have 2 basic states, right? We have a reactive state in our sympathetic response, and we have a responsive state in our parasympathetic response. That's exactly what you're talking about. You're either impulsively reacting, or you're taking it and slowing it down and you're responding, right? And you have a choice. Those are the 2 states our bodies exist in, sympathetic or parasympathetic drives.
Fight or
That's
flight.
it. Right. And you have a choice to transition from that sympathetic, which is also all neurotransmitter driven, to a parasympathetic state. You can choose to go from reactive to responsive. That's a choice, but it's practice. You have to practice it. Now, my recap real quick. Relationships. Okay, go. So relationships morph. They change over time. You have to allow the dots to connect how they're going to connect. My relationship with Dr. Reid started one way based on some slight misconceptions, and over time developed into one of my most beautiful relationships and friendships. And I, think that dissent and challenge and being able to think outside of the box again is where those relationships grow. You asked, what is love? For me, I think love is passion and is fire, but with respect and boundaries, where you understand and can navigate dissent and things that you might not agree on, but always within the boundary of love. And I think those kinds of relationships are the most passionate and are the ones that are going to last the longest.
I love that. That's perfect.